Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll set the Sanhedrin daf Samach Beis. We are going to begin on Samach Beis Amud Aleph, the fifth line from the top. Tani Rabbi Zakkai Kamei Rabbi Yochanan says the following: Zibech v'kita v'nisech. If a person does these three different acts of avodah zarah, v'ishtachveh, and also a fourth one of bowing down, behelam echad, but he does it in one state of forgetfulness. You only have one. So Amalei, so he said, Puk tani lebra, go and teach this in the outside. So Omer, which is basically saying, like, what exactly is this chiddush? We know that this din applies when it comes to other things. If it's behelam echad, you only have one. Omer Rabbi Abba, so Hadi Amri Rabbi Zakkai Machloikis Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Nosson. The sign is actually totally on a machlokus. The sign Havara, when it says it was Savarish, Shabbos. So when it comes to why did we specifically mention about kindling a flame out of the Lamates Malachais? So Havara is Lulav Yotza. Rav Yossi is coming to tell us that when it comes to all the other Lamates Malachos, of course you have skila. However, when it comes to Havara, it's a lav. It's only come to tell you, of course you're chayiv for Havara, chayiv Misa. But the question is, are you chayiv if you do Havara and you do another one, let's say you cook on Shabbos, so you're going to be chayiv on both of them. Of course, you can't get killed twice, but it means b'shoigeg you have to bring two chatas. So So basically he's just saying that all these different things, like hishtachava, constitutes comparable to Havara, and therefore it's only a lav. That's what it's coming to tell you, that when it comes to all these avodah zarah, you're talking to be chayiv for all of them, not just one. So again, this is puk tani lebra, as Rashi says, the taisu. It's a mistake what you're saying. Okay. So Maskav Rav Yosef Dilmad Kan Lo Yikam Rav Yossi Hasam. Maybe the only time Rav Yossi says his din by Havara is Havara Lulav Yotza, that he says that it's a lav, the Nafkale Chiluk Malachis, because he learns out the different dinim of Malacha being Chayiv Cholach Achas from Achas Mehena, from the drasha, the pasuk Achas Mehena, which is regarding Karban Chatas, the sign of Yossi Omer. So what does that mean? Sometimes you could be chayiv one for many actions. And sometimes you have to be chayiv multiple chayuvim of a karban chatos, many chatos. My time Rav Yossi. Why is it that sometimes you can be chayiv one, sometimes you can be chayiv many? What is that from this drasha? Achas mi'achas, hena mehena. What is that? Achas shehi hena vehena shiachas. That's the whole drasha. And then Gemara and Shabbos discusses each one. Discusses here. Achas. What is achas? Shimoin mi'achas shem mishimoin. So Shimoin is writing Shimon's name is obviously an isser. You're not allowed to write Shimon's name. But also mi'achas, even if you wrote from that name, in other words, all you wrote was shem mishimoin, you're still chayiv, because as long as you write two oisiyos, two letters, then you're chayiv for writing on Shabbos. So that's what it is. So you have Shimon, and then you have shem mishimoin. Heina avos mehena told us that you're chayiv for avos malachos, and then there's subcategories told us of them you're also chayiv. And this is why we brought this down. Achas shehi heina. What is that? Zadin Shabbos shkogas malachos. If let's say you knew it was Shabbos, but you were shaking about the malachos, or heina shehi achas. So in that case, heina shehi achas. You only have to bring one carbon because you knew it was Shabbos, but you were shkogos on the malachos. Shkogas Shabbos. Let's say you made a mistake that it was Shabbos, was on the malachos, but you were amazed by the malachos. In that situation, you only have one. Avol hacha deloy nafkalei chiluk malachos. Over here, that's when it comes to Hilchos Shabbos. When it comes to Avodah Zarah, there's no chiluk malachos. Meduch Nachriti from anywhere else, the Kuliyami Hishtachva Chalk Yatsa. Then certainly Hishtachva is L'chalek. So in other words, the only reason why he says L'lav Yatzis is because he learned L'chalek from this other drush, Achs Mahena. But over here, when we're learning out already about a Zara, there's no other drush of L'chalek, so over here it's L'chalek, and therefore you should be chayav al Kolak Zachas. Chiluk Malachos Devodas Kachavim Nami. So why do we say Chiluk Malachos could also be derived somewhere else? Typically, Ma'achas Mahena. Why not from the same drasha? Achas Vichav Achas Siman Echad. So Achas is if you shech the animal both simanim. And Mi'achas, even if you shech just one of the simanim, you're also chayav. Heina avos zivuach kiter nisach v'ishtachava. These are all considered avos. Mehena taldos, which are subcategories comparable to sacrificing or libations or bowing, which is shavar maklo fanav. You break a stick in front of it. So that would be another form of worshiping it, and you'd be chayav. Achas shehena zadan avodas chachav v'shkagas avodos. So when achas Shehena Zadan Avodas Chachavim, you knew it was Avodah Zarah, but you're b'shoigeg about the avodas, so you be chayav each one. Heina Shehi Achash Shkogas Avodas Chachavim Zadan Avodas. That if you're b'shoigeg about the Avodas Chachavim, but you're b'mezid avodas, you only bring one. So you can ask the same you can say the same thing. It's l'chalik. You can learn out Avodah Zarah is also Achs Mahena. So Hash Shkogas Avodas Chachavim Heichadam. I understand. The only way you can establish that is if this whole thing flows. Now we're saying that there's a concept of being b'shoigeg avodah zarah. Now ik savar beis hakneses who v'ishtachav l'har shemayim. If a person bowed down thinking that they were going to a shul but really wasn't, so then they had the right intentions. You're not going to be chayav anything. Oh, the chaza and darta v'sagili. We had this before also in yesterday's daf. You saw a statue of a king and you bowed down to it. So if you accepted Eloha, this is a god, amazed, then it's you're not chabachatas, you're amazed. If you didn't, or not makabel, we did nothing. Elo miyava miyira. So that's why we tried to bring a raya that we see that miyava miyira chayev. So that's hanichla abayid yemar chayev. Elo rabbi yemar potam akamemer. So elo boimer mutter. Rabbi will say it's a case of Omer Mutter, as we saw again on the top of the Talmud, where a person thought that you're allowed to worship idols. So Tivshit Tibomine Rabbi Rav Nachman, L'chayri should be able to answer this question. Helam zebazeh v'zeh biyadai mahu. What if you are Helam zebazeh biyadai? Says Rashi. First of all, El Omer Mutter Ksaver Einavas Chachavim Matayra. When he doy havish shkogas was chachavim, zadim avodas avodas el shkogas zevazeh miu. Okay, so maybe then this is a answers the question, where a person is a shaygeg because you're helm zevazeh, you forgot about everything. You even forgot about avodah zarah. So tifshit de'enu chayav el achas. Maybe you only chayav one. So it's a raya halukasha the tifshit. You're right. You could answer it. How could you establish Achs Mahena as Avodas Chachavim? De'ilu ha'chaksiv b'Mashiach par v'nasi servi yachid kisbo seira. When it comes to, depending on who does the avera, so they have different requirements. A Kohen Mashiach has to bring a par. A nasi would have to bring a sa'ir. Yachid, an individual, brings a kisba, useira. However, yovados chachavim tanan v'shavin shebeseira kiyachid v'sulo midi. So when it comes to avodah zarah, there is no distinction. We always bring a seira. It's the v'sulo midi. So because of that, you can't. It doesn't obviously teach us the halachos of avodah zarah. So you can't learn out from here, because that over there it's talking about the dinim of bringing karbanos, but when it komes to Kohen Mashiach, they're all the whole parsha talks about different people have to bring different karbanos, but that's not the case when it comes to avodah zarah. Everyone brings the exact same thing, regardless. They bring a seira, and therefore, because of that, this again going full circle, make sure I understand the conclusion here is that really, maybe when it comes to Havara, he had no choice but to say Lulav Yotzos because he already learned out L'chalek from this. However, when it comes to Avodah Zarah, maybe he taka needs to learn L'chalek Yotzos. Okay. Therefore, you're chayav al kolachs v'achas. Kiyosa Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda Omer, as we continue to Samach Beis and with Beis, Hachi Tanikamei. This is what he learned in front of us, and this we had basically the next Omid is more Shabbos. Chayimir b'Shabbos mishar mitzvahs. In certain regards, Shabbos is more strict than other mitzvahs. In another respect, Chayimir b'Shar mitzvahs b'Shabbos. Other mitzvahs are more chamer than Shabbos. We have to understand what that expression means. So Chayimir b'Shabbos shar Shabbos oisa shtayim b'helam echad chayav kolachs ve'achas. If you do on Shabbos 2 things in the same state of forgetfulness, you're still chayav on every one. Mashin came b'Shar mitzvahs. When it comes to other mitzvahs, we're going to discuss what this means. When it comes to other mitzvahs, it's not the case. You're going to be chayiv only one. Chayiv b'shar mitzvahs, however, other mitzvahs are more strict. Sheb'shar mitzvahs shogag b'lo mischavin chayiv. That when it comes to other mitzvahs, if you did not have intention and you were b'shoigeg, so in that situation you are chayiv. Mashin b'Shabbos you would be potter. Says Rashi, you had a totally different mindset. So when it comes to Shabbos, you're potter, because machshavas, malachas machshavas. Okay. So now we have to understand what these 2 statements are. I mean, this is all verbatim from Gemara Shabbos. Do you remember it? So Omer Mar, Chayim b'Shabbos Shabbos Oisa Shtayim v'chu. So Hechadam, Ileim with the Avad Katsir of Tchina. Let's say you did 2 Avos Malachos. You harvested and you grind. So he said, in that case, it says Behel Mechad, you're chayav on each one because they're 2 separate things. So the Kavasei Gabi Shar mitzvahs. So if I want to compare it to other mitzvahs that you would not be chayav in each one, the Achol Chaylev Adam. So you ate Chaylev, which would be chayav carbon as well as dam. So Hachi Tarti Mechayev, Hacha Tarti Mechayev. It's not true. You'd be chayav to bring 2 chatas as well. So what do you mean it's only by Shabbos and not by Shar mitzvahs? How do you understand that? So El Gabi Shar mitzvahs Deno Chayav El Achas Heichadami. How do we find that? Must be the Achal Chaylev V'Chaylev, that you ate the same thing twice. So the Gabi Shabbos the Avid Katsira. So if you did harvesting twice, so Hachachad Mechayev Hachachad Mechayev, you'd only be chayav once. How did never put Tani Lebra? That's just said go outside. That doesn't make any sense. How can you make a distinction? There is no distinction. So how can you say that there's a difference between Shabbos and Shar mitzvahs? So my kusha, that you did 2 different acts. So if you did 2 different acts, you're going to be chayev on each one. Doesn't mean all other mitzvahs. It means specifically by doing different forms of avodah zarah that you only be chayav one. So we see, and we saw this before, that if you do all different types of acts of worshiping an idol, you're only chayav one. Okay, so that's the chiddush, as we saw. Okay, so that is the first piece. You can't establish it as chachavim because if you want to contrast it to the next statement, it doesn't fit. Diktani seifa chayim b'shar mitzvahs shar mitzvahs shagabul mischav chayim. So what does that mean? So if you're shaygeg when it comes to avodah zara, below mischavin you're still chayiv. So shagabul mischavin b'unas chachavim hechidami. What exactly is the case where you're b'shaygeg below mischavin by idol worship and you're still chayiv? So iksav be'esach nesas v'ishtach v'lo harlu v'shamayim. If you bowed in the shul thinking it was you thought it was a shul, but it wasn't, so your heart was in the right place, and therefore you shouldn't be chayiv. El dechaza an darta v'sagle, you bowed down to this statue of a king. So it depends. If you accept it as a god, so mezidhu. So what does this mean? You're going to be chayiv achatas. You're b'mezid. It's not a shaygig. If you didn't have any acceptance upon it, it's nothing. El miyava. So again, according to Abai, you're going to be chayiv miyava miyira, and therefore that's what it's talking about. Maybe. L'bai diyamer chayiv el rabba ha'omer de'omer potter ma'ilka meimar el ba'omer mutter. So it's either miyava, the machlok is miyava miyira if you're chayiv. Abai says yes, Rabbi says no. So therefore, when you're chayiv is ba'omer mutter, you thought the avodah zarah was mutter. So what are we saying? When it comes to avodah kachavim, we say the din is that Shesher Mitzvah Shogmos Chav Yisol Chayiv. You're Chayiv, like you're Chayiv by Aviyira or Mutter. Masha'inkin b'Shabbos, the Patu Lagamri. Masha'inkin, when it comes to Shabbos, you're going to be Patu completely. So I'd come Lo Bomi Ne Rabbim Rab Nachman Helm Zeh Ela Ila Chayuv Chada Ila Chavitarti. The question is, you Chayiv one or two. Patu Gamri Leikom Ad Yomer. No one says you're Patu completely. So how do we say, when it comes to Avodas Chachavim, so you're going to be Chayiv. However, when it comes to Shabbos, you're going to be Potter? No, you're not going to be Potter in that case. So my question, the problem is, the ratios of Avodas Chachavim, the Sefer won't fit to be Avodas Chachavim. So my question, Dilma, Oyim Emelach, Resha, Be'avodas Chachavim. The Resha, again, is Avodas Chachavim. And therefore we say, when it comes to Shabbos, you do different malachos china and ktsira, you're going to be chayiv al chalachas ve'achas. When it comes to avodas chachamim, you only chayiv one. So that we're sticking to. However, that doesn't mean the sefer also has to be talking about avodas zara. The sefer b'shar mitzvahs, v'shagmon u'schavin. So ksavar roiku, you thought it was actually saliva, ubon, you swallowed it. In that situation, you thought it was saliva, and therefore you're in that case, again, the sefer you're chayiv because it was really unkosher fats. Mashing b'Shabbos the potter. However, if you do the same thing on Shabbos, you'd be potter. What does that mean? Your intention was to pick up something which was detached, which is mutter, of course. And it was really attached. So in that case, you'd be potter. In that situation, you would be potter. Okay. Fine. So Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel the Omer Hamas Asek b'Chilavim u'Arayos Chayiv Shechein Nehena. When it comes to only these two things of eating chaylev and eating arayos and committing gil arayos, you're chayiv because there's hana involved, enjoying the food, enjoying the tashmish, and therefore because of that, when it comes to being masasek, which is like being on b'shaygeg, so you're going to be chayiv on those shar mitzvahs. However, masasek b'shavas potter, so you're only chayiv when you actually have the intention to violate the malacha. However, if you have something which is tolish and you pick it up and it turns out it was really mechuber, you're potter. Rabbi Yochanan Tamei, the loy makam asnisa reisha b'chad taima v'seifa b'chad taima. Rabbi Yochanan is according to his logic, he doesn't want the reisha and the seifa for different reasons. Rabbi Yochanan, man mitargim li chavis aliba d'chad tana ma'ivlinim mani basur lebei basusa. Anyone who can explain to me this matter regarding a clay, I'm going to carry your vessel, your clothes, to your bathhouse. I'll be your servant if you can explain something to me. So what is that talking about? Let's look at this long Rashi. The Tani Hasam Hamafkid Chavius Eitzel Chaveroi. If a person gives a barrel to his friend, V'yachid lo habal and makoim, but he doesn't designate a place. V'tiltul v'nishbra. He moves it and it breaks. So imitaych yada nishbra with sarcho chayiv. If let's say it broke and it was with sarcho for his needs, he's chayiv because maybe he shouldn't have moved it. It was definitely for his own needs. With sarka potter. If it wasn't, it was for someone else, the other person's need. Then he's potter. Im mishanicha, when he put it down, nishbra ben lotzarcho ben lotzarcho potter. It was put down, so it doesn't matter. When it was put down, it broke, so he didn't move it. Yachadula habaylim makoim. Let's say the baal was miyachad a place, but tiltul v'nishbra and it broke. Ben metaych yado ben mishanich lotzarchoi chayiv lotzarcha lotzarcho chayiv lotzarcho potter. Uparach hasam, we asked over there, money Rabbi Shmuel he the yomer will be inan das bailim. You don't need to know the baal to know all this. The sanya hagayniv tlem in the eder. It says that if you steal, this is the end of Baba Kam, I believe, person who steals a tlef from a flock, to sell them in a kiss, or takes like a nickel out of someone's pocket filled with coins. Makam shaganav yachzer, Rabbi Shmuel. Says just put it back. And became omer das bailim. So it's a machlokas if you stole one thing out of 1,000 and you put it right back, and the guy never even knew it was stolen. So you need das balam to tell him I actually returned something which I stole. So that's the machlokus over there. Whether you need das balam. So Ibri Shmuel my area lo yachdu. So why would it be that you didn't designate a place? Afil yachdu nami. Even if it was designated in a particular place, you would still the din shouldn't be any different, because whether you need das balam, so it's not your miyachar or not. So lo meboykar, lo meboyachdu mekaymahu. If you lo yachdu the la mekaymahu, it doesn't matter. Lo boy das balam doesn't matter. You don't need das balams. Therefore, either way, sevatan Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva my yachdu avil yachdu nami. Lo meboykar, lo meboy lo yachdu la mekaymahu el avil yachdu nami mekaymahu to be inan das balam. So ratio Yochim say Rabbi Kiva. Okay. I'm not sure why this Rashi says all this. This is pretty unbelievable. So he says, anyone who can explain to me this sugya, then I'll carry their garment to the bathhouse. And again, the idea behind, we're going to stop there, but the idea is that it's okay that we establish the ratio about avodas kachavim and the seif is shar mitzvahs. So even though it's true, so Rav Yochanan holds the moikim masnisa reisha b'chad taima, the seifa b'chad taima. So it's okay that the reisha and seifa could be different, and it's acceptable. Okay, let's see maybe a question over here. Question 14. Chaymir b'shar mitzvahs mib'shabbos sheb'shar mitzvahs shagag b'mischav and chayiv, like by Arias and by Chaleb. Mashkin b'shabbos heichem etzinu chayiv b'shar mitzvahs. And it's the case of Masasik, basically. Madua Bahem Chayav Mishabas Potter. So Matzinu Shemasasik Bechilav and Varayas Chayav. Vatam Tehesha Mischavin Shehe Nehena. You got no Vi'ilu Mishabas Malachas Machshavas Hasar Taira. Okay. TA 11. Heichem Mishkach So Shagbul Mischavin Mishar Mitzvahs. Umadua Chayav. How do we find Shagag? Make sure I get this. Shagag below mischavin b'shar mitzvahs, and why you chayiv? So it's by a rise. So that's what it is. Oh, so ksavar roik uboiloi, right? Because you thought it was saliva and you swallowed it. V'chayim yishom the misasik b'chalav arayis chayiv shekei nehena. That's TA11, which is basically what we just learned. But let's just write this up. Let's see. The Seifa b'shar mitzvahs v'shagim below maschavik savar roiku uboilu. Okay, fine. And why is he chayiv? Because the masasik b'chalav arayis chayiv shekei nehena. Okay. All right. Question TB 12. Chaymer b'shar mitzvahs mib'shabbos. Sheb'shar mitzvahs shagim below maschavik chayiv mashkim b'shabbos hegam atzinu dechayiv b'shar mitzvahs umadu behen chayiv b'shabbos water. Same thing. Arayis v'chilos Iser kemo chaylev imis asek adayin hu chayev b'devarim elu b'nei shata nehena b'devarim ha'elu. Ma'ashen gem b'shabbos machas machshavos also Torah ad kan.